I want to send a special thank you to all my new subscribers. If you have not subscribed, make sure you do so and hit that bell so that way you receive notifications when I upload videos. Okay, so I wasn't going to talk about this Jeffrey Epstein case because y'all know I've said it before. I don't like talking about pedophiles. I do not like talking about people who think that it's a good thing to molest children. That's basically what you're doing. You're not having sex with an underage kid, you're molesting them. And so I didn't want to waste my time. I don't like giving these type of people the limelight. I don't like speaking about them. I think that these people have a sick, mental, twisted mind, and I can't deal. So, but there is a lot of interesting information that it came out in this case, and so I wanted to talk about it. Now, if you're not familiar with Jeffrey Epstein, he's basically an American financier who owned a firm called J. Epstein and Co. And he had that firm until he was convicted back in 2008 for running an underage prostitution ring for some pretty high, powerful people. So this guy has had his run-in with the law for several years. He's been on the government's radar since all the way back in 2002. And so this guy was recently arrested and committed, they're saying that he committed suicide. I'm not sure, whether or not I believe that, but I'm going to kind of give you guys just a little bit of information on his background. So, this guy, like I said, he was on the government's radar since back in 2002 for sex trafficking. But they didn't start a federal investigation until about 2006. And then they were watching him, and then he was arrested July 2008, where he actually did some time. He pled guilty to hiring underage girls for erotic massages and sex at his South Florida mansion. He ended up getting time, I think it was 18 months, but they let him out early, 5 months early. So he only did about 13 months in prison, and then they put him on 1 year house arrest. And a lot of people thought that he received special treatment because anybody who is convicted of those type of sex crimes, you're going to get way more than 18 months. You can get all the way up to like 15 years in prison, depending on the severity of the case. So a lot of people felt like he received special treatment, and he probably did because of the high, powerful people that he had in his social circle. So I'm not surprised about that. But before he did his time, prosecutors were basically discussing, they had signed an agreement that they wasn't going to prosecute him. And two of the women that he had abused as minors filed a federal civil lawsuit claiming that their rights were violated because the prosecutors didn't keep them in the loop of what was happening. And so they signed this agreement without notifying the two women, and so they took that whole thing to court. But that dragged out for a while, and some of the information that came out was showing that Epstein had paid other women to recruit underage girls for him, and that actually sounds familiar to another case that's out there. You guys know already. But this guy really was sick and twisted. There was a lot of stuff that came out about this guy. This guy is a registered sex offender, a convicted pedophile. He abused so many women. It's insane. But like I said, he was recently arrested last month. They arrested him they indicted him on sex trafficking charges, and they put him in a federal prison. It was actually the Metropolitan Correctional Facility in Manhattan. So he was awaiting his trial there, and he actually was showing signs that he had tried to commit suicide previously. 3 weeks prior to his suicide recently. So he was showing signs, there was injuries on his body, and they documented that, and they actually put him on suicide watch, and they had him in there in the jail cell with another inmate. And they later said that they ended up transferring the inmate that he was with. And then shortly after that, I think he was only on suicide watch for less than 1 week. And they ended up taking him off of suicide watch. I believe that they said it was the, who was it that took him off? I know that the warden, I think they said the prison chief psychologist is the one who deemed that Epstein was safe to be removed from suicide watch. And so the warden allowed him to be removed. And 11 days after they had taken him off of suicide watch, they're saying that he committed suicide. So the weird part about that is a lot of what happened in this case, it broke a lot of rules, or if the procedures that the correctional facility normally follows, those procedures were broken in this situation. It's not normal, from what they were saying, for somebody to be placed on suicide watch for such a short period of time. And on top of that, after his cellmate had transferred facilities, he was left alone in his cell. Now, they said that typically when people are placed on suicide watch at that facility, they have them in there with another cellmate. And that way the cellmate can watch them. The cellmate is the one who can possibly talk the person out of being depressed, or they can alert the correctional officers if they see something that is deemed an emergency. And then the guards are supposed to check every 30 minutes every inmate that is in that section that is considered on suicide watch. And those guards did not check every 30 minutes. I think they did their rounds the next morning, and that's when they found his body hanging. So I think they said it was like 6:30 a.m. on a Saturday is when they found him. So right now they're saying that the FBI is investigating the procedures that the correctional facility failed to do. And so, something's probably going to come out after that. But this guy was supposed to have a cellmate in there. And so it's like a lot of things that this correctional facility was supposed to do, they did not do. Now, a lot of people are saying, that it was one or two things. Either, Epstein was killed to prevent him from talking, which I can find that it's credible that could possibly happen, because he's running in circles with high profile people, very powerful people. He has his own island where they flew in these underage girls, and they was doing these sex rings there on his island. And so there was a lot of high profile people who had visited his island and was staying there and was doing God knows what at his island. And so, of course, their names are going to possibly come up in an investigation. And, they're not going to want that information to get out, especially if, Jeffrey Epstein, he looked like he's not one who could do time, so maybe he was going to sit down and be willing to, work with the government to give them a bigger fish, somebody who was of a higher status than him. Maybe he was going to crack the case wide open and tell them, every single person that had ever taken part or participated in these sex rings. And so it may have been some pretty powerful names on that list. And so he could have been off to prevent him from telling, secrets that could have brought other people down. So, that is something to look at. And then other people are saying that this guy's probably not even dead. They probably faked his whole death and has him in, in government protection somewhere. in hiding somewhere. And that's possible too, especially if you're running around, like I said, with powerful people, movers and shakers. You got people who can do just about anything for you. You got people who can pull just about anything. So they could have possibly removed this guy from this facility and have him somewhere across the world, and just made it look like this guy committed suicide. So anything is possible. But there was a picture that had surfaced, I guess, after they said he hanged himself, that they had rushed him to a local hospital, and you can see there's a picture I'm going to include where he's laying on a gurney. I guess they're taking him out, and people are saying that it didn't even look like him. So I don't know, you guys can y'all can form your own conclusion based on that. But what I will say is this: there are so many people in this world. There's so many people in this world that they don't look like pedophiles. They don't look like a person who would enable a pedophile. These are your everyday, average people that you may know, going to and from work. That I'm gonna show you a picture of one of his enablers. She looks like an everyday woman. Somebody who's looks like they got a good career. She looks like, it seems like there's a stereotype with these people, like they're gonna look deranged or something's wrong with them. These people didn't look like that. And these people are your neighbors. They're people that frequent your kids' schools. I mean, you can find these people anywhere. And I always say the biggest threat to society are the enablers, because these are people that help feed the craving of pedophiles. These are people that help cover up evidence to prevent these pedophiles from being prosecuted. They're the ones who are preying on young children and bringing them back to pedophiles. They're the ones who are keeping the ring going. And, our communities are not safe with these people. And a lot of times the government will give these people immunity in order to bring down other people. And I feel like in order to cleanse our community of this sickness, this illness, you have to take down everybody from the top all the way down to the bottom. Nobody should be able to be provided any type of immunity when it comes to sex trafficking underage girls. Period. These people should be put in prison for life. So this guy, in over a 10-year span, he brought over 100 young women as sex slaves. I mean, that is somebody who is deranged. That is a deranged individual. So, I don't know whether or not this guy is truly dead. I don't know if this guy is found a way to skate on all his charges and he's living the high life somewhere else in another country. Who knows? With everything that happens these days, there's so many ways, there's so many different loopholes people can get out of doing time, being held accountable for the things that they have done, especially when you run in those high up circles. It's kind of like the rules don't apply to them. So, we're going to definitely keep our eyes on this case, but a lot of this is going to be hard to prove. So, I don't know, but you guys, I'm going to leave it here. You can tell me what your thoughts are on this whole situation. Do you think that this guy is really dead, or do you think that he just faked his death and had, higher people involved, where they helped this guy fake his own death? Or do you think that, they wanted to off him and maybe they, had a hand in some of the guards allowing certain things to happen and just overlook it, so that way this guy was, out of the way and was no longer a problem for them. So you guys tell me what you think, and I'll see you in the next video.